This is episode 257 of the Super League Pod, and this is the one where we put those back rowers very much front and centre. In fact, we discover most of the best had spells up front or in the centres. We talk about the man who divides SLP opinion more than any other, poll upcoming, also get some divided opinion in the news, and what could we do with that farm on the M62? Plus, spoiler alert if you're watching Staircase. So get yourself strapped in, it's SLP time. Hello listeners, welcome along to episode 257 of the Super League Pod, another one of our lockdown positional specials. This week you've got myself, Mark, Wigan fan, you've got Sarah, Hull FC fan. Welcome along, Sarah.
Hi, you alright?
I'm good, thank you. And Sarah, we've got a special guest joining us this week, someone who we've not heard from.
Very exciting, isn't it?
It is exciting because it's someone we've not heard from in audio form on the podcast before, but obviously a long-time listener and occasional contributor, and claims not to be a supporter of any particular club. But we welcome to the show St Helens fan David Pye. Welcome to the show, David.
Thanks very much, Mark. Hello, everyone.
Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself before we get into opening up the show and letting everyone know about our wonderful sponsor?
Yeah, certainly can do, yeah. So, I've been listening to the show since probably about show 15, 16, something around there. I picked it up so in the early days. I really enjoyed the show, enjoyed the format and the informal chat around Rugby League, which is a passion of mine. I started playing when I was around 9 or 10 from a local school, Nosey Road School, Nosey Road Primary, on the same road as the St Helens Club. Started playing at St Helens Crusaders, which was created by a gentleman called Danny Rylands, who I still speak to now. He created that youth club, and I was part of the first team there, along with a few other guys who went to same primary school. Unfortunately, after a couple of years, our age group disbanded, didn't have enough players, but there was a growing club beneath that. And I went to play for Blackbrook, who at the time had an excellent team. About 6, 7, maybe 8 of the guys went on to sign professional deals, and we won everything. We went a couple of years without losing a game under a guy who's still involved in Rugby League at the moment at Wigan, Johnny Jackson. Great coach. We had a great team. From there, I went to play for the academy in the very early days. In fact, before it was academy, it was called DDA. I think it stood for something like district teams. Played on the Wednesday nights, probably similar to what a scholarship is now. That evolved into the academy. I played a few games in the reserves. It was called the A team at the time at Saints, as A and other, as people will recall.
Yep.
Yeah, and then went to.
Why didn't they start calling all the ringers like B.A. Baracus and stuff once the A team was popularised on the television?
I'm not sure.
Nobody was bright enough to come up with that as an idea.
You used to get the team sheets before the game. You had to bring them in. So often, in the A team, because you get so many different standards. You get a couple of trialists. You get a few academy lads stepping up. You get a few of the first teamers who were coming back from injury or needed game time. So you'd always be interested in who you're playing against that week, because the standard of the team could change quite a lot. So you always knew if there were 7 or 8 A and others, it's probably not going to be too bad this week. If there's a couple of big names on there, you thought, crikey, we're going to have a tough game. But I never signed professional forms at Saints, only the academy forms. And then I played at Goulburn for just a few months when I left Saints, under a guy called John Prince, a really good coach, a great guy. He went on to Oldham, and I followed him a few months later, and I was there I signed a 4-year contract, but I was there for about 3.5 years and just played reserve grade the majority of the time. So, to be honest, I say I've had an amateur career and a professional experience. I wasn't in the professional game long enough, I played at a high enough level to claim that I had a professional career. That would be disingenuous. I had an amateur career, a youth career, playing for county teams and so on. and I had a small experience playing just on the fringes of the professional game, and then left the game when I was in my early 20s. I wasn't breaking through. I had a good job, and like many people, at the time it was more attractive to earn money at work and not have to travel all the way to Oldham 3-4 times a week and get beat up for 80 quid. So, I went a different direction, as many do if you don't actually make it. So, yeah, that's my experience in the game, and I've been passionate and followed it closely ever since. I'm fortunate to have played with some very good players, and I'm very grateful to them, just being in their company, around them, learning from them, and just being able to set the pitch with them and play against them. And I'm not being humble here when I say they were a lot of players who were far better than me, and I was quite fortunate in being in the right place at some times. But I'm grateful for the opportunity and the experience. So hopefully I can add some value to your brilliant podcast, and as we work through.
So when you were playing, you played in the back row, so you're going to have plenty of insight, and maybe some of the players we'll talk about you had the opportunity to play against or with at some stage in your playing days as well, which is fantastic. At the end of the show, we'll probably when we catch up about what we've been doing during lockdown, we'll ask you a little bit about your son as well, who plays the game, but we won't go too much into Jamie's young career at the moment. We'll talk about that at the back end of the show. What we will do now, though, after you've thoroughly introduced yourself, David, and everyone will know your credentials now, but there's someone else's credentials we need to make everyone aware of, and that's our wonderful sponsor. So, Sarah, do you want to tell everyone about our sponsor?
Yep, so this episode is sponsored by Rob's Toy Shop again. You can find a wide range of toys, gifts, rugby league birthday cards and more at Rob's Toy Shop on eBay. Visit stores.ebay.co.uk/Rob's Toy Shop. And on orders over £5, you can earn 5% cash back, and also 1% of your order value will go into the SLP coffers if you put SLP discount at the checkout.
Excellent stuff. Keep supporting Rob's Toy Shop for as long as they're operating. Please check those guys out and make sure you give Rob some of your custom if you can. Right, so what we got coming up this week, as everyone now will be used to, we're going to have This Week in Coronavirus in the news. We've got a couple of other bits of Rugby League Cares related news to talk about too. We've got some match reviews, mostly Hull Derby match reviews, and we'll also talk about any games we've been watching over the last week or so, and then we're going to get into the in-depth part of the show, which is talking about second row forwards. So we've got plenty to talk about there. Sarah's prepared a quiz for us, although I'm not quite sure how excited I am about this quiz. I feel like whenever someone else does a quiz, particularly when you get to do the quiz, Sarah, it's almost like a get your own back experience.
I did so bad. I did all right last week, but the week before I did appallingly. So yeah, you can get what you're given.
Excellent. And then we'll sort of catch up on our weeks and see if we've got any recommendations. So with that in mind, let's jump into the news.
So in the news this week, we're starting on the 7th of April, and Turtle RL reported that Daryl Powell says the date for the transfer market to open needs to be delayed. Currently on the 1st of May, players out of contract at the end of the season are free to speak to other clubs. However, with players unlikely to resume by then, an unclear financial outlook for clubs and numerous other issues to contend with between now and then, the Castleford head coach believes it has to be moved back. That's also been backed up by at least Andy Last, if not other coaches as well, I've seen.
Yeah, I saw Andy Last's comments today or last night that he's supporting the same thing. I mean,
it seems like a no-brainer, really.
It all kind of depends on if over the next 2 to 3 weeks they come up with a plan of when we might be seeing the season start, how long the season might run on for. If we're going to see a shortened season, but that season's going to run later into the winter before any grand final or anything like that potentially, then of course it just makes sense to move everything with it and give teams the chance to plan, players the chance to earn contracts either at the club they're with or impress someone else. It does seem to make sense, doesn't it? David, yeah. What do you think? Do you think this makes a difference or not? Like if they move out the date that players are free to talk to other clubs?
I'm not so sure, really. I mean, it's they're looking after players' careers, aren't they? Very often with the modern game, with the way the contracts were, they're often looking for new contracts before one's finishing. So, yeah, I think with the potential changes, I'm happy with it, if you are.
Do you think it's more? I think it's more for the clubs, in the club's interest than the players' interest, because there might be players who want to get out of their existing contracts anyway, who might enjoy that extra time to sell themselves to people via, I don't know, Skype or Zoom or what have you. Yeah, I don't think it'll make a huge difference, but it makes sense if like you say, Sarah, if everyone's moving, this moves.
Yeah, I mean, because otherwise you are basing your judgment on, what is it, 6 games, 7 games?
Yeah.
Also on the 7th of April, Salford Red Devils announced that all blue light card holders will be given free entry to all remaining Super League matches this season. The blue light card is designed to give employees who work in pivotal sectors such as the NHS or armed forces discounts across a number of services, with Salford now signing up to this scheme. Another good bit of PR if the season ever starts again.
Yeah, the cynic in me might say that at the same time this was announced, there was an interview with Ian Watson saying how they need to improve their crowds. But, this is one of the best ways I think that someone could try and do that, is to give some sort of reward back to those people in our key frontline services who want to take advantage of such things in the future. Like you say, should they get home matches again this year, and maybe they'll extend it beyond that. I mean, but it's a nice story, isn't it? Even if there is who cares if there's a PR angle? I think with nice stories.
Yeah, I think Salford have been quite good at this in the recent past. They're working very hard to engage with the community, Salford, and to do nice things. And you're right, it's mutually beneficial if they can support people like the NHS and also try and promote their brand as part of it. It's everyone wins, so I think it's a great move by them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Sarah.
No, I was just going to say I'm inclined to agree with you that actually, in one sense, does the motive matter? It's a nice, it's going to benefit people, isn't it?
Yeah.
And hopefully introduce new people to our sport.
Exactly, and if people go and watch and get impressed by an away side, then we might get people coming to Wigan or going to Saints or wherever as well.
Staying with Salford.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, it's definitely a nice scheme. On to the 8th of April, BBC reported that Hull KR prop Massimo says he feels grateful that he is able to continue his recovery from his serious spinal injury in hospital. So was told, and we discussed last week, that he would need to leave Pinderfields Hospital to free up space because of the pandemic. However, the 30-year-old and some other patients as well in similar situations to him have been allowed to stay and continue their treatment. And also in positive news, the Samoa International is now able to walk with the aid of a walking frame. I think it's all really positive news around Massimo. So Rugby League Cares have come out and said that they've managed to achieve funding to help support the cost of his hospital stay as well, which is absolutely fantastic news, obviously, with a young family, another child on the way. This is all great. Sarah, you love twisting the knife on Hull Kingston Rovers, but not in instances like that where this is the whole Rugby League family is happy
definitely
with what's happening right now with Masso's recovery.
And actually, I think he's now progressed slightly from a walking frame. He's able to use crutches now. I saw a photo of him yesterday, I think, with crutches.
It's absolutely fantastic news, isn't it?
And do you know something? I was watching some of the matches that were shown on Hull FC's Facebook, and watching Mossy Masoi play, you think, he's a good player, actually.
I was watching an old Wigan Saints game as well, where he came off the bench and had a big impact in that game. It was one of the seesaw kind of games where it went one way and then went another, and he had a really good spell for Saints in that game. Something like, I think, that impact off the bench.
Yeah, I think he's a name that and you think, he's a big player, he makes a difference. But actually, when you're looking back at old matches and sort of, I guess because his name is very fresh at the moment, it's very, what's the word, like very current, isn't it? You sort of watch and think, actually, in a fairly poor Rovers side, you were good.
Yeah, Definitely.
And you made a real